Henny Youngman was a British-born American comedian and violinist famous for his mastery of the one-liner. His best-known one-liner was "Take my wife, please." In a time when many comedians told elaborate anecdotes, Youngman's routine consisted of telling simple one-liner jokes, occasionally with interludes of violin playing. These depicted simple, cartoon-like situations, eliminating lengthy build-ups and going straight to the punch-line. He was known as the King of the One-Liners, a title conferred to him by columnist Walter Winchell. A stage performance by Youngman lasted only 15 to 20 minutes but contained dozens of jokes in rapid-fire succession. Early life: Youngman was born to a Jewish family in London, England. His family moved to Brooklyn, New York, when he was a child. He grew up in New York City, and began as a comedian after he had worked for years at a print shop, where he wrote comedy cards containing one-line gags. The comedy cards were discovered by up-and-coming comedian Milton Berle, who encouraged Youngman and formed a close friendship with him. Berle said about him, "The only thing funnier than Henny's jokes is his violin playing." Career: encouraged by his family to study the violin, Youngman began in show business as a musician. He led a small jazz band called the Swaney Syncopators, and during their performances he often told jokes. One night, the club's regular comedian didn't show up and the owner asked Youngman to fill in. He enjoyed it and began his long career as a stand-up comic. His inoffensive, friendly style of comedy kept his audiences laughing for decades. He first played in clubs and speakeasies, but his break came on the Kate Smith radio show in 1937. Youngman's manager, Ted Collins, booked him on the show, and he made many appearances on the radio. During the 1940s, Youngman tried to work into films as an actor, but he found little work in Hollywood. He returned to nightclubs and worked steadily, performing as many as 200 shows a year. Working with writer-producer Danny Shapiro, Youngman recorded the primitive sounds of Henny Youngman, a live album for National Recording Corporation in 1959 at the Celebrity Club in St. Louis. The album is still popular today in CD, and is a frequent iTunes download. Like many comedians, Henny Youngman treated his profession as a working job, one where it is difficult to make a living, and getting paid for the work is all important. In numerous interviews, Youngman's advice to other entertainers was to never gelt. He was quoted in an interview with a web-based magazine, I get on the plane. I go and do the job, grab the money, and I come home and I keep it clean. Those are my rules. Sinatra does the same thing, only he has a helicopter waiting. That's the difference. When the New York Telephone Company started its Dial a Joke line in 1974, over 3 million people called in 1 month to hear 30 seconds of Youngman's material, the most ever for a comedian. Youngman never retired, and he performed his stage act in venues worldwide until his final days. As his fame passed into legendary status, he never considered himself aloof or above others, and he never refused to perform a show in a small venue or unknown club. In a tribute to Youngman, TV and animation producer Mark Evanier described Youngman in a way that emphasized both his money consciousness and his love of performing. He would take his fiddle and go to some hotel that had banquet rooms. He'd consult the daily directory in the lobby and find a party, usually a bar mitzvah or reception, and he would go up to the room and ask to speak to whoever was paying for the affair. "I'm Henny Youngman," he would tell that person. "I was playing a date in another banquet room here and one of the waiters suggested you might want to have me do my act for your gathering here." He would negotiate whatever price he could get, $200, $500, preferably in cash, and he would do his act for them. Roger Ebert described a similar episode in a 2011 film review. "I once observed Henny Youngman taping a TV show in the old NBC studios at the Merchandise Mart. We got into an elevator together. It stopped at the second floor, a private club. A wedding was underway. Youngman got off the elevator, asked to meet the father of the bride and said, 'I'm Henny Youngman. I'll do 10 minutes for $100. Youngman made numerous appearances on television, including a long-running stint on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. In 1955 he was host of a TV series titled The Henny and Rocky Show, appearing with champion boxer Rocky Graziano. He had cameo appearances in several movies, including One Ton Ton, The Dog Who Saved Hollywood, History of the World, Part 1 and Goodfellas. He had a larger role as the strip club owner in Herschel Gordon Lewis's The Go-Go Girls, a fact he denied vehemently. He made a few recordings, most notably The Primitive Side of Henny Youngman, recorded live in St. Louis and released by National Recording Corporation on the NRC label. The CD is still in print. His published autobiography is entitled Take My Life, Please. Youngman's last movie appearance before his death was in the Daniel Robert Cohn film Eyes Beyond Seeing, in which he has a cameo as a mental patient claiming to be Henny Youngman. Personal life: Youngman's wife, Sadie Cohen, was often the butt of his jokes. Here King, here King. Also, last night my wife said the weather outside was fit for neither man nor beast, so we both stayed home. But in reality the two were very close, with Sadie often accompanying her husband on his tours. Youngman remained married for over 60 years until his wife's death in 1987, after a prolonged illness. While she was ill, Henny had an ICU built in their bedroom, so she could be taken care of at home, rather than in the hospital, as Sadie was terrified of hospitals. Henny explained the origin of his classic line "Take My Wife, Please" is a misinterpretation. He took his wife to a radio show and asked a stagehand to escort his wife to a seat. But his request was taken as a joke, and Youngman used the line countless times ever after. Youngman had 2 children, son Gary and daughter Marilyn. Gary started his career screenwriting and directing, and thereafter continued to work in the film industry in various capacities. Gary is best known for his 1976 film Rush It, which introduced the film going public to a number of soon-to-be very famous actors and actresses. After Rush It's lukewarm reception, Gary removed himself from the public eye. He then lived a quiet life in California. With the exception of a week following his wife's death, and the month he was in his final hospital stay, Henny was renowned for having worked almost every day for over 70 years without vacations or other breaks. Death: Youngman developed pneumonia and died on February 24, 1998, at the age of 91. He is interred in the Mount Carmel Cemetery, Glendale, New York, next to his wife, Sadie. Filmography: You Can't Run Away From It, Nashville Rebel, The Unkissed Bride, The Go-Go Girls, One Ton Ton, The Dog Who Saved Hollywood, Silent Movie, History of the World, Part 1, The Comeback Trail, National Lampoon's Movie Madness, Amazon Women on the Moon, Goodfellas, Eyes Beyond Seeing. References. External links: Henny Youngman, King of the One-Liners, is dead at 91 after 6 decades of laughter. Henny Youngman at the Internet Movie Database, One-Liners attributed to Henny Youngman.